Hi everyone, my name is Annette Kong and welcome to our new user interface session for today. In preparation for the newest release of Accurri, today we're going to be walking through all of the major updates and new features that we're going to be introducing so that when we do eventually roll out, you guys will feel equipped, comfortable, and ready to go when that happens. You will receive an email when the latest update is available, and it will include a link to our user guide, which will also list all the new features that we've introduced. So we'll spend the next hour together, but we will also stick around towards the end to answer any questions you may have. So as always, I have Lauren Pickles with me today. Lauren's available to answer any questions you may have as we go through the new interface. So feel free to pop them in the Q&A and chat functions that are available, and Lauren will get back to you as soon as she can. Finally, this session is being recorded and it will be available under the videos section of our website within the next 24 hours or so. So starting off in our user guide here, whenever we do release a new version of Accurri, you will always be able to find out what is new in the latest updates, software updates section. In this screen, you can see we have the list of updates and changes by each release. So our latest release was in January 2025. When we do roll out this release, it will be listed here. So we do recommend coming back to this page and reading through because there will be a few major features that we are introducing, and all the information will be included in the user guide. So let's hop straight into the new interface. So this is our updated login screen. So clicking login, let's be brought to the first screen. So we are now in Home All Entities, and this is where all the entities you have created will be listed. So this screen was previously called Entities List. As we go through the changes, you'll notice that there will be a few screens that either have been relocated or renamed. The list of screens that have been changed will be listed in the user guide upon release. So you will be able to refer to that and find your way around. In this screen, you'll notice that we no longer have the initials menu in the top right-hand corner. Instead, what we have is this vertical ellipsis. Clicking the ellipsis, you'll see we have the option to email support. This operates exactly as it does in the existing interface. When you're in a report, clicking this button will auto-populate an email with your entity name and report details. We also have preferences in this vertical ellipsis. So preferences used to be called My Preferences, and it originally was housed under this administration menu here. So that has been relocated to this vertical ellipsis. Similarly, we have the change password screen as well. So this also used to be located under administration. It has now been moved here. If you wanted to access our example financial statements, you would come across to the navigation menu, and clicking the header, you would be able to find the relevant example under the relevant country. So moving to our entities on the side here, you'll notice that we have removed reduced the repetition of icons next to each entity. So as you hover over each specific entity, those icons will appear for you, and you will still be able to access the same options that you can currently access. Now, if we were to create a new entity, we usually would come to the left-hand side here. However, because we have this new navigation menu, the new entity button sits at the top, and all the other buttons that are available throughout the screens will now sit across the top here. If you found that you preferred having the navigation menu, if you found that you rather have this navigation menu sit across the top, similar to what it is in the existing interface currently, there is an option that will allow you to swap these two menus around. So coming back to the vertical ellipsis and coming to preferences. Under left-hand menu, we can switch this toggle off, and this navigation menu should look a little bit more familiar. You would simply click into the tabs and select the screen that you are after. For the purposes of today, I will switch on switch back the left-hand menu. And I will also just quickly point out that this navigation menu is you can resize it as you require. So it can be as big or as small as you desire. Coming back to the home screen, all entities page now. The last thing I'll point out is we are currently in the test server. So we're not in our production server. So there are a few things that will look a little different. So certain URLs, etc., will be a little different to what you are used to. So clicking new entity, let's create our entity for today. So let's go with demonstration limited and clicking OK. The first screen that we're brought to, as always, after you create a new entity, is the entities edit screen. In this new interface, that entities edit screen is now called entity setup. In terms of functionality, this screen, the functionality of this screen hasn't really changed. If you were preparing a consolidated report, you would create the new subsidiaries and divisions by clicking New. Alternatively, it is also possible to import your list of divisions. When you are importing your list of divisions, there is a required file format for it. The best place to find that required file format is, of course, our user guide. Now, in the existing interface, you can access the user guide via the green Need Help button in the right-hand corner. We have relocated that Need Help button to the question mark up here. So similar to the existing interface, this user guide link is still contextual to the screen that you are currently on. So clicking the Need Help button in this entity setup screen, you'll be brought to the relevant section of the user guide. Obviously, when we do release the updated interface, the user guide screens will be updated as well to reflect those updated names. So for today, I am just going to import a list of divisions for us. So this file has been formatted in that required file format. So there we've got our manufacturing and retailing divisions. Once you are happy with the setup of your divisions, we can move on to our new entity reports screen. So similar to entity setup, this screen has been renamed. It used to be called reports list. As you can see, we have the usual buttons still available. So new report, report wizard, copy content, etc. The one change we've made in this entity reports screen is we have relocated the show options that usually sit on the left here. And instead we have this filter button in the top right-hand corner. So clicking filter, you're able to filter for your unlocked and deleted reports as usual. And we have moved the search bar from the top to appear at the bottom here. So as we go through all the screens, you'll notice that there is the search bar at the bottom where you can expand the list and search for the specific item you are after. So clicking new report, let's name this draft 1 and let's head in. So the first screen that we are brought to is this new report options setup screen. As you can see, it looks quite different to the existing interface. We still have the main report settings available, so you can still select the country and basis of preparation you require from this drop-down menu. Under report format on the right, we can turn show consolidation on if we are preparing a consolidated report. And of course, we then have the usual options. So to prepare a 2-column report, I will switch show parent off for us. So the main settings are consistent with the existing interface. However, as you can probably tell, we have reduced the number of report option switches that are usually listed in this screen. And what we have done is we have relocated all those options into the report options cog in the top right-hand corner here. So selecting the cog, You can search for the item that you're looking for via the individual categories, so either by group, option, value, etc. Alternatively, we have the search bar at the bottom that will search across all categories. So, for example, if I wanted to remove the wording attributable to owners in our report, I would simply type in attributable, and that option has appeared for us. So, clicking in, I can toggle this off, and now that wording will be removed from our report. Um, let's say I wanted to change the entity reference for in my report. So typing that in, this has brought up the required report option, and I can change this and type in group. So that will save and update the wording throughout the rest of the report. Now, this cog icon, report options cog, sorry, is available within every screen of the software. So that means you can click in at any point and change those options as you see fit. I will also point out that these report options will still be available within the reports themselves via the cog icon that appears next to the relevant item. So if you're looking to change the wording in a specific row or table, you would click the cog icon that appears next to it, and you'll still be able to access those report options that way. Because we have relocated many report options, however, into this new cog, that has reduced the number of report option screens we have. So you'll notice under report options, we no longer have the settings screen or the rounding screen. Rather than going into those screens to make those changes, of course, you would come to the cog up here. So from setup, moving on to variables. So this screen used to be called custom variables. So if you have created any custom variable fields, they will be listed in this screen here. And I will be going through the changes to fields a little later on in the session as well. So for now, we'll move on to sections setup. Now, this screen was previously named report sections. And it has been relocated from report options to sections here. The reason it appears in both places right now is we know that you guys will take will need a bit of time adjusting at the beginning. So we have left sections set up under report options for now. However, if you were to click sections setup here, you would be brought to the sections setup screen under the sections category or header. I will be covering sections setup when we reach sections. So for now, I will move back to the report options. The remaining screens under report options, so signatories, styles, events log, etc., these remain unchanged in terms of functionality. I will point out that events log, this was previously called log in the existing interface. That has just been renamed. But these screens are operating exactly as they would in the existing interface. So from report options, we'll move on to inputs, and we'll go to the trial balance screen here. All the same buttons are still available, so obviously they have just been relocated to the top here, and we have introduced new icons to go along with each button. The one change that we have implemented in this trial balance screen is how you import trial balances into the software. Now, previously, before we could go ahead and import a trial balance into our report, we would need to ensure that our Excel file had been formatted correctly. However, in this latest release, if we click import, you will see we have added additional methods for you guys. So we have the Accurri format as the first option. So if you wanted to still use the Accurri format for your trial balances, you will still be able to import those trial balances as normal. So that format is the one that will have column A as your account number, column B as your account name, and then column C and D for your current and prior periods. Of course, if you were importing multiple trial balances at once, you'd have them separated into these separate worksheets, and then the worksheets would be named according to their division alias. So this file would look very familiar for all users. You would click Accurri and you'd have the normal options available. So you can select multiple if you are importing multiple trial balances. So that is the standard Accurri format. The second method we've introduced is Excel. So this is where you can import your Excel file and then you would tell the software which column contains which data. So to use the Excel method, let's say I wanted to import this trial balance. So you can see in this Excel file, I have my account number here, my account name, but then I have the balances for the prior period for two of my divisions, and then the balances for my current period for my two divisions here. So let's go ahead and import this file into the software. Coming back, I'm going to click Excel, and then it's a matter of clicking and browsing to find your file, or you can drag it in. So clicking Next, the software has detected the data in those columns. So the next step is to match the column headers to the correct data type. So in column A, this contains the account codes or account numbers for all divisions. So I'm going to select this header. Column B is the account name for all divisions, so selecting that option. Column C is our prior period parent balance, so grabbing that. Column D is the prior period balance for the manufacturing division. So we would repeat that process for the current period balances. So I'm grabbing the parent current balance and the manufacturing current balance. Clicking OK, we have now matched all those columns. So after that, we can untick the header rows that we do not want imported and any subtotal rows that may have been included. Clicking Next, you can review where the data will be imported, and clicking Import, that is going to import those numbers. So our numbers have successfully been imported, and of course, once they are in, the next step would be to map your numbers. So you can click in and manually map those accounts, or via one of the map options in this button here. So that is the Excel method. Coming back to import, the last method available is copy and paste. So this is where you can copy your data from the Excel file and paste it directly into the software. You would then go through and assign the specific column headers to the correct data, similar to what we just did for the Excel method. So for copy and paste, let's say I exported my trial balance from my accounting software, and this is the output. As you can see in the singular cell, it contains all the data across divisions and such. So I'm going to copy this into our trial balance. So copying that, coming back to the software, clicking copy and paste, I'm going to paste that in. Now, the next step would be to enter the column delimiter. So in this case, this would be the underscore character. If we were to copy and paste this Excel, because the data is separated into columns, rather than entering in the column delimiter, you would simply select Tab and the software would pick that up. So clicking Next, we have got our different columns, and now the same process applies. We go through and match them accordingly. So this is the division account number, all divisions account name, and then our prior period balance for the parent, our prior period for the manufacturing division, and scrolling across, the prior period balance for retailing. Oh, sorry. Go. And I'm just going to repeat that process for the current period. So current for the parent, current for manufacturing, and then current for retailing. Now, if you didn't want to import a specific column in your trial balance, it is possible to leave this column unmatched sorry, not matched, and the software will exclude that column from its import. So you don't need to match every single column if you don't want to. The same process then applies where you can manually untick those header rows. Alternatively, you can click in at the bottom here and enter the number of rows to skip. And then clicking next, you can review where that data will be imported and click import. Once again, the same process still applies. You can map manually or click the map button and use one of these options. So for today, I will use automatic just so that our numbers get quickly mapped for us. So from the trial balance screen, the remaining screens under inputs will operate exactly the same as they currently do in in the existing interface. There is no change to their functionality. So we'll move on to sections setup. As I previously mentioned, this screen has been renamed from report sections and it has been relocated to sit under sections for us. One of the main changes we have implemented in this screen is for creating custom sections within your report. So clicking new, let's say I wanted to create a CEO's letter. I would name this section. And then because this is going to be a letter addressing shareholders, I won't need notes to be inserted into the section. So I'm going to tick section without notes and click OK. As usual, the section is added at the bottom here and appears in the navigation menu. You would drag and drop it into your desired order, and that will also be reflected in the navigation menu. So clicking through to this custom section, you'll see that there are no individual notes sitting in this section. What we do have is a singular text block. So we can click into this text block and start typing, pasting in our data, etc. And that will appear for us as normal. Now, what was previously known as a paragraph in the existing version of the software is now called a text block. We updated the name purely because we think it's a more accurate reflection of what this item actually is, because within a text block, you can have multiple paragraphs, as you can see. Text blocks will operate exactly like paragraphs. So rather than coming up to the top to find the toolbar, you would see that we've relocated it to the right here, and we have categorized all the different options for you. So that will hopefully make life easier rather than clicking through each icon. You have a clear distinction between what each item is. You also have lots of space to work with within a text block, so you can enter in as much content as you require. Now, let's save our changes to this text block. In the existing interface, if we were to click the Save button, it would save the changes made to your paragraph or table, and then it would close the item you were working on. So to continue working in the table or paragraph, you'd have to click back into the item. To reduce the number of times you're jumping in and out of items, in this updated interface, you can populate your data, click Save, and the updates will flow through your text block without exiting or kicking you out of this edit text window. So this also applies to tables where you can click Save, have your updates flow through, and you won't be kicked out of the edit table window. So closing this screen now, from the CEO's letter, we'll move on to our profit or loss. Now, most of you would be used to seeing lots of icons like the link icon, the filter icon, etc., dotted throughout the screen of this profit or loss. In this new design, we have introduced the choice of hiding or displaying those icons. So coming back to the vertical ellipsis and coming to preferences, you'll see under icons in sections and notes, you have the option to always show them or show them on hover or hide them. For today, I have selected Show Icons on Hover. So coming back to the P&L, and you can still navigate within your report using the back and forward buttons. Let's have a look at what this looks like. So you can see as we scroll down these different rows, those icons are now appearing for us. So coming to the revenue row here, we know that this revenue row is linked to a note because we see the link icon appear for us. You'll also notice that we have the information icon. So hovering over the information icon will bring up the source literature. And then if you click it, it will also hyperlink to the relevant standard. As usual, if you wanted to go through to the linked note, you would click this link icon. And then we have introduced this new ellipsis here. So clicking the ellipsis is going to bring up further options for you. You can add additional items to the P&L, you can export the table, add comments, and you can also access the linked note and source literature from this ellipsis here. So those are rows linked to notes. If we hover next to a row that appears on the face only, so you'll see the allocation code listed to the left. So this is a face only row, and when we hover, we see we have a few different options available. So rather than the link icon, we have this filter icon. So clicking this will bring you to the filtered trial balance. And of course, we have the information icon again. We also have the ellipsis, and clicking the ellipsis, you'll see that we have different options available to us compared to the row linked to a note. So we still have new, export, and comments. However, we can now access the audit trail for this row, access the filter trial balance and the source literature from this ellipsis as well. So we have made a lot of these options more accessible when you work through your report. The audit trail will still be available by clicking the allocation code that appears next to the table that you're working in as well. So from the P&L, we'll move on to the changes in equity. Now, let's say I wanted to change the format or the page orientation for this statement. I would come up to the top here and select landscape. And now when we export this statement to PDF or Word, or we export the entire report, this statement will print in landscape format for us. So from the changes in equity, we'll move on to our notes. So in the navigation menu, you will see we have the note classes listed. So clicking the drop-down menu for introduction, we can see all the introduction notes that are available for us. Now, at the very top here, we have turned off Show All Notes. So switching this option back on, we will see all the notes that are available to us, regardless of whether they have data in them or not. So you can list them in the navigation menu to make navigating to those specific notes a little bit easier if you'd like. We have also introduced this new landing screen for our notes. So clicking all notes, we're going to see that we have all our notes listed by their class. So you can select, you can view all the current liability notes, non-current equity, etc. And we have relocated the show options or the filter option, sorry, to the filter in the top right-hand corner here. So clicking in, you can filter for your used notes this way as well. And then similarly to what I mentioned back in entity reports, I think we have the search bar at the bottom here. We do have the search bar available at the top for your note name, so you can type in your note name and find it that way. You can search for it at the bottom here. And then alternatively, if you wanted to search your entire report for something specific, you can use this search menu in the navigation menu here. So clicking in, if I wanted to search for property, plant, and equipment, I will see that it is sitting in our sections here, and I can click in and find it that way as well. So in our PP&E note, you'll see that we have this breakdown table, which is something you will be very familiar with. Clicking in, you'll see the new what the new edit table looks like in this updated interface. Similar to the text blocks, we have relocated those to the toolbar to the right, and they have been categorized for you. When it comes to tables, one of the new features we have introduced is we can now force rows to not print. So in this table, we can see there are a number of rows that have been switched on automatically by the software. Let's say I didn't want this row to print uh, in our table. We would simply select this row, come to row print status, and select never. You'll see that row has now switched from white to gray, indicating it has been turned off for us. And now when we export this note, we will see that the table will not print that row that we turned off. We also have under settings the ability to change table names here. Now, there is a default list of tables that have been automatically named by the software. So in the existing interface, you'd have that default list, and then the remaining system tables would be unnamed. So if you wanted to export that table via disclosures, you would need to go to that table and name it before it appears in that source list. In this updated interface, the remaining system tables are now named sequentially according to the order that it appears in the note. So in this case, because this table is the first table that appears in the note, it is named System Table 1. If it was the second table in the note, it would be called System Table 2. The same concept then applies if you wanted to export this table via disclosures. You would need to come to this table, select settings, and then under table name, give it a custom name. So let's say I just call this PP&E breakdown. Now that we have given it its custom name, we will be able to find it in that disclosures list. So clicking save, you'll see that we will not be kicked out of the edit table window, but let's close out for now. Scrolling down, let's go ahead and insert our own custom table into this note. So to insert an item, you're going to right mouse click, so that operation is still the same. And under new, we have the option to add text blocks, which obviously used to be called paragraphs, but then we also have the usual options available, so tables, balance checks, etc. We now have the ability to insert items above, not just below where we clicked as well. So in this case, let's insert a table above where we clicked. And then the usual table types are still available, so current and prior, bullet point, text, etc. For today, I will grab a manual table, and for every custom table that you are inserting, you will have to give it a name. Let's just say this is the manual table. And of course, the usual options apply where you can insert up to 3 groups of rows with subtotals. So I'm just going to grab 5, 5, and then 2. And I won't have a subtotal for group 3, and I won't have a grand total for group 3 either. And then in terms of columns, I'm just going to grab 2 currency columns and then a total column as well. So clicking OK. We have the shell of our table. So standard procedure, you would simply enter in and populate the table as required. So let's say I wanted to enter in my asset categories. I can do that. I can enter in some descriptions, etc. Now, when it comes to entering data into these custom tables, we have made improvements to the functionality of our automation features, in particular formula fields. So I'm just going to enter in some dummy numbers into this table so we have something to work with. And let's say I wanted to insert a formula into this cell here. I would select the cell, come to fields, and find the insert formula option. So clicking that and clicking OK, we will see what insert formula looks like. So in this screen, you have the option to insert cells in from tables as a field. So we can click in and you can search for the specific table you are after via the sections. So, click through each section and find the specific table. Alternatively, you can click in and search for the table you are after. So, searching for that manual table we created. Let's say I wanted to insert a formula summing these three cells. I can click, hold down Shift, click again, and add selection. So that has summed those cells for us. And now we can actually go ahead and build a formula. So let's say I wanted to add a cell from another table. What I can do is come back and let's search for the expenses table. So here we go. We've got some expenses. Let's say I wanted to add that to my formula. And let's say I wanted to multiply this by this value here. So you can click calculate within this formula window, and this will calculate the result for you. Alternatively, you can click save, and that the result of this formula will be added into your cell directly. It is also possible to, so as you can see, it's possible to insert cells across different tables. It is also possible to insert uh, fields linking to chart of account allocation codes. So you can mix and match the two. So I'm going to add selection, and that has been added into our formula for us, and click calculate, and that will calculate the result. And of course, you can also insert a formula linked to just chart of account balances, etc. If you wanted to view the source of the cells within the formula, you can double click it and you will be brought to the specific cell that it relates to. So clicking save, that formula has been inserted as a field for us. It is also possible to type in your own formulas. So clicking insert formula again, you don't need to link it to any cells that are, or any numbers that appear in your report. You can just build your formula manually, just typing in something. Sorry, that's a bit crazy. And then clicking save, that formula will be inserted for you directly. If you realize that you didn't, if you preferred not to insert a formula in the cell, you just wanted to link to a normal table field, you can click insert formula again, and this time you just find the specific the specific cell that you are after, and you would click add selection and click save, and that will be added as a normal table field. You don't need to enter in any formulas in that bar. The same process applies if you wanted to insert a formula into a text block. You would find it under fields and create that formula. Clicking save, and let's close out here. So let's say we were going to be working in this property, plant, and equipment note for the next few days. We know every single time we log in, we're going to have to come straight here. You may or may not be aware of this, but in the existing interface, you can come up to the initials menu and set a bookmark for the screen that you are working in. In the existing interface, you can only bookmark one screen. However, in this updated interface, you can bookmark as many screens as you like. So to bookmark a screen, you would come up to the Add Bookmark icon. In this case, I have already bookmarked it, so it will appear in this bookmarks menu here. So clicking that, you can see we can easily navigate to the property, plant, and equipment note without having to scroll through notes, all notes, etc. So that is very handy. And then in this existing interface, sorry, updated interface, you can add as many screens as you would like in that by clicking the star icon, and they'll be listed for you. Now, if let's say we completed our first draft of our report and we wanted to see how it was taking shape, usually we would come to the outputs menu here and click through and find the report from the list. Instead of doing that, we can now come up to the PDF and Word icons here, and we can download the entire report via PDF or Word from whatever screen you are working in. So it's no longer necessary to come to outputs every single time. You can simply select um, the icon that appears here, and that will download the entire report from the screen that you're working in. So clicking in, this is what our report is currently looking like. We have our cover, and then scrolling down, we have the CEO's letter that we added. You'll notice that because we selected section without notes, we don't have the repetition of the section name and then the section note. Scrolling further down, let's have a look at our statement of changes in equity. So that's our P&L, our financial position, and then our landscape statement of changes in equity. The rest of the report, I won't bother scrolling too much because it will be formatted as per usual. It'll look very similar to what you guys are used to. So from here, I will move back to the software. And that concludes our session for today. Thank you so much for attending. We hope you guys enjoyed it and are looking forward to some of the new features that we're going to be introducing. I will stop the recording now and we'll stick around for a few more minutes.